bleed green? Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place. This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen.
Here we go!
Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50 plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate.
We love to argue.
You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go! Let's go! Go! And a good morning, Birds fans. Appreciate you streaming in here to Birds 365 on a kind of Thursday. And what I mean by that is, does anybody really know what day of the week it is with the whole holiday thing? I don't know about you, but I'm confused. And I'm easily confused. But the Eagles can't be confused, Johnny Mack, even though we have to acknowledge they're all just like regular human beings like us. They got family, they got holidays, they got everything else to do. But they got to focus in and get ready for the Cardinals. And I know it's Jonathan Ganon week, and we'll probably get some comments on the stream about Jonathan Ganon, and I get it. The whole way that Jonathan Gannon's career ended here in Philadelphia. You got to let it go. If you want to pick it up again next week, feel free. Go ahead. Get ticked off, blame Jonathan Ganon and everything else. But this week, just worry about the Arizona Cardinals. You got a football team that's got 3 wins coming to town. You can't afford to stub your toe. One thing I don't want to hear this week is, oh, it's got to be a get-right week. Well, guess what? Last week was a get-right week, and they got right. They won. They didn't dominate the Giants the way some people thought they would and felt they needed to, but they won, and that was much more important than anything else. Same thing here this week against the Cardinals, John. Win the game. Win the game. Move on, get a little bit closer to the end of the season. We'll see what the Lions and the Cowboys do and the 49ers do. We'll have a better grasp on it. Just win the game this week. Is there any way they can't win the game this week?
Sure. It's an NFL game. I mean, as you mentioned, the New York Giants were in a position to potentially tie the game. I think people forget the 2-point conversion as well. So you got to make a couple plays to even get to overtime. But when Tyrod Taylor came in the game, they got some juice. And I always say all NFL teams have a bunch of good players, and the Giants are no exception. The Cardinals are no exception. You always hear me say it's not college where you literally have like a bunch of games. If you're a big-time school, you're going to win. I mean, they're glorified scrimmages. You're going to win certain games. It isn't like that in the NFL. And even the worst teams can jump up and bite you on a given week, and especially this year where there's no real dominant teams. Everybody's shown some significant faults, even Baltimore, San Francisco at the top. So, anybody can beat you. And especially when you have a Kyler Murray type. I go back to that first game with Josh Dobbs, and he just won a game by himself. And Josh Dobbs isn't very good but what he can do is make some plays off schedule, and just, do some weird, quirky things. Kyler's actually good, and he can do that. They could lose the game, but if they, probably bring their C game, they're probably going to win it. They'd have to play really poorly. They'd have to turn it over a bunch, and they've been prone to turning it over a bunch.
Show the capability of doing that, Johnny Mack.
Somebody slipping like the Giants. If you think about the Giants game, I mean, they dominated that game, but you had two big mistakes. The kickoff return where the friendly fire fumble, a Boston Scott when Olamide Zaccheaus ran into him, and Dallas Goedert slipping turns into a pick six, and bang, you got a game. So something like that would have to happen, but something like that can happen. And again, Kyler especially can go out and just win a game by himself. And so he's a little bit scary. Matt Patricia talked about him and their speed as a whole on offense with Hollywood Brown. And yeah, I mean, they got a bunch of good players. They just don't have a bunch of good players when it compared to high level NFL teams like the Eagles. So, but JG is obviously going to want to win this game. Very competitive, and Nick's very competitive, and he wants to win this game. But yeah, I'll tell you, talked to a bunch of players, defensive players yesterday. Let's get the JG nonsense out of the way. Nobody, to your point, turn the page. Nobody dislikes the guy in that building. Nobody dislikes it. Do they wish it worked out better? Sure. Do they wish they would have been able to get Vic Fangio? Sure. Timing didn't work out. That's it. Turn the page. And by the way, I'll just say this about Vic Fangio. If he was here, you'd hate his defense too. Bottom line. So get over it.
That's true too, because it's not about pressure on every single play with it. There's a reason why they call it the Fangio defense. If he was here, they'd be playing the Fangio defense. That's
yeah.
And the point you made about the quarterback, I think is something that we have to keep our eye on. I wrote it down as one of my keys to the game. The Eagles in their first, they just keep adding up. Man, we got to the end of the season fast. 15 games have played, for my estimation, one quarterback who can make plays with his legs. And when I make plays with his legs, I'm not talking about extending plays and off-schedule plays, because even pocket quarterbacks can be forced to do that every once in a while, and if they can, they can. I'm talking about pull it down, turn it up the field, get a chunk of yardage, move the chains, everything. One, Josh Allen. That's it. Go back over their schedule. Go back and look at. There aren't that many quarterbacks in the league that can do it to the level that Josh Allen can. We think that Jalen Hurts used to be able to. He's still one of the better ones, but he isn't as good as he was last year. Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson. That's it. There's like 5 of them in the whole league anymore. But the Eagles have only played one, Josh Allen. And for those of you who don't remember, Josh Allen rushed 9 times for 81 yards, including 2 rushing touchdowns. So the one guy that they played all year that you would go, man, you got to remember he can take off with the ball at any time, actually put up some pretty damn big numbers against the Eagles. So I don't know how they will or how well they will defend a quarterback like Josh Allen purely with his legs. I'm not talking about the passing game. The passing game's a passing game, and Eagles are where they're at. Got some improved play from young corners last week. May get Avonte Maddox. We'll get to that in a second. Back this weekend. I'm legitimately scared that Kyler Murray could end up being a key guy in this game when he decides not to throw the football, John.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, and as I said, Matt Patricia talking about him yesterday about how he gets to his top speed so quickly. So he destroys. He's one of those guys. You mentioned Lamar. He's one of those guys that destroys pursuit angles of defenders. And yeah, I mean, last year he almost beat them making plays out in Arizona. And that was the backup kicker game, the Cameron Dicker game. They had the better backup kicker.
For just one good memory, hopefully leading into this game. You're right. He kept them in the game. He cost them the game by sliding 1 yard short.
Well, that's true.
On a first down.
Yeah.
All he had to do was go 1 more yard, and the Eagles could have lost that game last year.
That's harder than people think. The NFL, man, that you would think with the technology, they would get a better. There's so many times coaches are told on the field it's a first down, and they're starting to go with a 1st and 10 play, and all of a sudden they go, oh, no, it's not. And it ends up being 4th down, and they got to scramble. NFL's got to fix that. But yeah, anytime, you got to make
Do
sure
you
you
think
get
that
the
was
first
the
down.
case on that play last year?
No, I'm just saying in general. Just
Okay, yeah,
sparked
because it
me,
was pretty obvious he was a yard short.
No.
That wasn't it.
I
Oh my God, they got the first down. Oh no, they don't have the first down. No, he
No.
never got close to the
Yeah.
first down. He
It's
could
just-
have, but he chose to go into a slide.
You know me, I get in the tangents. One of my pet peeves. That happens a lot to coaches, and it shouldn't. But yeah, I mean, he's got to do a better job. But it doesn't change the fact that, one mistake doesn't mean he can't. He could have had the first down. He made a mistake.
Yeah.
And he's that type of player. And for a quarterback, do you slide? Do you dive? And obviously, if you slide, they're going to place the ball where it is when you start the slide. So yeah, no doubt that was a poor mistake, but you saw his ability to do the things that you were talking about. And he's a really good player. I think people could forget about that because they hit a rocky road at the end of the Cliff Kingsbury era. And now they're in a rebuilding stage. But man, they were 9-0, I think, or 8-0, something absurd.
Not last year before that.
The year
2 years ago.
2021.
They were the last team to lose a game.
Yeah. I mean, and people forget, my point to that is people forget how good Kyler Murray is for whatever reason. They turn quickly when, and quarterbacks get all the blame. You see it here. It happens in every city, and they get all the credit when you win. So it's part of the gig, but people forget how talented he is, and he's very talented.
All right. I know, Johnny, it wasn't a full practice previous this week, yesterday. So we got an injury estimate. I would say more good than bad in the fact that Avonte Maddox was a full practice. Does that guarantee he's going to play this week? No, it does not. But the fact that it was a full practice, not limited, is good news. And that both of the two missing linebackers from last week's game at least were limited. Today's a much more important practice, full practice. 2 days before the game, you can read more into it. But at least off the limited and not knowing exactly what it means because it's an estimation, I was buoyed at least somewhat by yesterday's injury report. How about you?
Yeah, more so because we talked to Brandon Graham and he just blitzed right through Nick Sirianni's nonsense. He said, we're getting Cunningham back. We're getting Morrow back. With Avonte, Slay's going to be back soon, but not, whether with Slay and Avonte, it's about, and Avonte was a full practice last week, all the entire week. So he hasn't played since week 2. So there's a ramp up period, and it kind of depends on what they want that to be. But he's very close. I don't know if it's going to be this week, next week. I assume they want to get him out there before the playoffs. With Slay, he's certainly going to be out there for the playoffs. The question is, do they want him back for the final game or something of that nature? And that I can't answer. But Cunningham should be back this week. Morrow should be back this week. Landon Dickerson should be back this week. So, and Brandon just, no subterfuge. Nick can try it, but Brandon just said, those guys are essentially playing. So that's big. And, they don't have great linebackers, but it's not, they went into last week's game with Shaq Leonard, who got here December 3rd or 4th or whatever it was, and Ben Van Sumeren as the linebackers. I mean, and they were able to persevere. But let's be honest. And I saw, and I'm not trying to pick on anyone, but I saw somebody in the chat say, oh, they got much better with Matt Patricia. I told you this was coming. I mean, come on, guys. It's baked in, the improvement. That's part of the unfairness. And I think Matt Patricia's a better coach. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, he's a better coach than Sean Desai. But it was baked in. They were going to improve with Sean Desai. They were going to improve with Jody Mack. They were going to improve because Drew Lock was on the schedule and Tommy DeVito and now it's the 3-12 card, and then you get the Giants again. They were always going to improve.
Instead of, and let's note, instead of the Cowboys and the 49ers.
Yes,
both
Cowboys
have
and
huge
Bills.
offenses.
And
Bills, right.
I mean, come on, guys. That I warned. You got to put the context on this stuff. They struggled mightily against the 49ers and the Bills and the Cowboys at home. The Cowboys at home, where they're averaging 40 points stick in a game. And yeah, they struggled and they should have done better, but it was always going to be improvement, and everybody knew it. No matter who was there.
Agree wholeheartedly on that end. And that's why we have to, although it'll be very difficult for some of our streamers and my listeners on WIP to put Ganon behind them for the week. I know this is the week. You've been waiting for this week. It doesn't matter. It's the Arizona Cardinals. It's not Jonathan Ganon coming to town. It's the Arizona Cardinals coming to town. And the Eagles have to beat the Arizona Cardinals.
I just want people to forget the timeline, the Fangio part of it. The timeline doesn't fit. And Tim McManus did a good job. And those guys did a good job of confirming. And they had some extra stuff. You know, the exact same timeline that I had 10 months ago. They confirmed, but they locked down the actual day when the Eagles were made aware of the impermissible call, which was Friday before the Super Bowl. Now, Jody, you can say, I texted you on Saturday. Ganon's getting the Cardinals job.
Yeah, you did. Before the game was ever played. You texted me that the day before.
Yeah, and if I know it, Howie knows it. But anyway, he didn't get the call till after the championship game. Vic Fangio agreed to terms with the Dolphins on that day. Tom Pelissero is the one who reported it. It was January 29th. Ganon, I talked to Ganon after the championship game. I congratulated him. I said, sorry about the Houston job. He was disappointed about not getting the Houston job for the second straight year. He talked to John Clark. He thought he was coming back. The call happened after Vic Fangio agreed, by the way, to take the largest coordinator contract in NFL history with the Miami Dolphins. And Vic Fangio isn't Josh McDaniels. And that was the other new part of Tim's report. The Eagles tried to get him to change his mind, and he wouldn't do it because he's a stand-up guy. Now, part of it is also he's getting the largest contract in NFL history. Part of it's money as well, and part of it's taxes. But you know, Florida's obviously much more desirous from a money standpoint, as our guest Rickie Ricardo knows. Part
That's
Florida,
true.
Part Northeast. So he was never going to Josh McDaniels, the Miami Dolphins.
And oh, by the way, John, and I try not to speak for someone else other than myself. I do it from time to try and read into what people are really motivated by in a fan base, either via stream comments or phone calls that I get. I think people are actually more put off by the fact that they believe, talk about trying to read someone else's mind, that Jonathan Gannon wasn't wholly there for the Super Bowl. That bothers them more, that the timing of it, and they could have had Vic Fangio. They really believe that Jonathan Gannon was not mentally prepared to be the coach in the Super Bowl, which I give you one guy who, if he's got reason to be ticked off, if there's someone who's got reason to be ticked off, Nick Sirianni's on the record as saying, I fully have faith that Jonathan Gannon was 100% committed, 100% focused for the Super Bowl game. The guy who's had the most direct effect to him, his partner in crime, his head coach, believes it had zero effect. Zero. Not 0.001. Zero effect on the Super Bowl. Gannon knowing that.
I've been telling people, and you've heard me say it, Shane Steichen spent more time with the Colts in the lead up to the Super Bowl than Jonathan Gannon did with the Cardinals. But nobody knows that.
Nobody mentioned Shane Steichen because
by the way, Shane was also 100% invested. I'm not saying most competitive guy. Think about it. Even if you want to go to that point, Jody, you don't want to leave Philadelphia with a Super Bowl ring. I mean, it's the most competitive. It's just the dumbest narrative to get to that point and say, oh, I'm done. I'm done. I don't want to win this game. The biggest. He doesn't have a Super Bowl ring. Are you kidding me?
Didn't have one before, and you don't know if you're ever going to get a chance to even get back there and get a shot at another one.
Dumbest narrative. It really is.
All right. We are going to upgrade the dumbness of the show. No, I'm only kidding. Rickie Ricardo is going to join us. The voice of the Eagles en Espanol, host on WIP. Muchas gracias, Ricardo, for coming on with us. Rickie Ricardo's next here on Birds 365.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Underdog Fantasy has a way for you to play alongside your favorite football team all season long with their Fantasy Pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats, then do what you usually do on a Sunday, watch the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, and the Sports Betting Show wants you to get involved. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up, use the promo code WIN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
You've got Jody McDonald, John McMullen, and the voice of the Eagles en Espanol, Rickie Ricardo. Good enough to jump in with us, get up early down in his Florida state, and hop on with us here on Birds 365. How are your holidays, Mr. Ricardo?
Holidays were great, Jody. The AEW show, of which I attended last night, did not finish until after midnight. So I'm actually waking up in the middle of the night for you guys, but I would only do it for you two, for Mac and Mac. But it was an outstanding AEW show last night. I am much impressed.
I need to interrupt you. Don't tell me who won the final match, because I'll tell you this: the taping time on my DVR ran out, so I don't know how the final match it ended. It was still ongoing because, as you said, it ran long. And the stupid announcer always said, "We'll stay past the top of the hour." Unless, of course, you got somebody recording it and it checks out at the top of the hour. Then you're screwed.
Oh, that's a big problem.
Which is exactly where I was at last night.
Yeah, well, Tony Schiavone is that quote unquote stupid announcer, and I will not tell you what happened in the Maxwell Jacob Friedman match.
I'll do the on-demand thing.
I know what happened.
Don't tell me. I don't want to know.
I'm not going to tell. I'm not going to tell you, Jody. But yeah, I tapped out. And now, was Tony your friend? Is that your connection, Tony? Because he's done some baseball stuff.
Shivani, I've known Shivani for 40 years.
Yeah, there we go.
When I did back when I did WCW in Espanol, we became tight. You're talking about a good 35, 40 years ago.
Nice. Yeah, the great Tony. You used to do Braves.
That wasn't, and that, by the way, that wasn't the last match because they taped the Friday night show.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
After that, so that's what I'm saying. We were there till after midnight.
Thank you for getting up early with us, Ricky. Appreciate that.
Anytime, boys.
All right, here's where I want to start with you because John and I have only done one show this week. The holidays have hit Birds 365 too. What kind of a grade would you give Jalen Hurts for his performance against the Giants the other night?
Well, that's a good question. In that particular game, I will give Jalen Hurts a C+, which is basically the grade that I'm giving him for the entire season. About a C+.
Yeah, see, I thought he was better than that.
I thought,
and I think that people have just passed over that fact. Didn't put the ball on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
The one pick he threw was because Dallas Goedert fell down. That's not his fault. And the throw had to be where it was, and it happened to be a pick six. But you're not banking on it being a potential pick six because you're not banking on Goedert falling down.
Well,
he took care of the football. His one big mistake was not getting out of bounds on the first play, last play before the half. But they ended up being okay with that because the Giants were foolish enough to take a stupid penalty. So I thought he played at least the B+ game.
I'll tell you why. When you watch the game from my vantage point, which is basically, John, you're there. It's basically the all 22, and then I go back with the little NFL Plus app, which the NFL was nice enough to give me that subscription. They give it to the broadcasters. There were 4 occasions in that game, 4 occasions where he tried to force the ball into either A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith or to Dallas Goedert, where he had other people wide open on the field. And I'm just not sure if all this hubbubaloo about let's try to get AJ involved, or let's try to get Devontae involved, or let's try to force the issue. Kenneth Gainwell on a wheel route was wide open with arms flailing on 3 different occasions when he's trying to force the ball on the other side of the field to a contented defended play on the other side to a wide receiver. So I just think that the decision-making process in total from the beginning of the game to the end this season, as compared to the Jalen Hurts that we saw last season that didn't have all these clouds hanging over him, and let me get this guy the ball, or let me force this play, or let me try to thread this needle. I think he's leaving a lot of wide open receivers. There are lanes where he could run in. Now, he ran much better this past week. I will give you that. He had a little bit more explosiveness. His giddy up was a little bit better this week, but there have been wide open running lanes during the season that he hasn't taken advantage of. I just think he's left a lot out on the field this year as compared to what I saw last year. And it's proven by when I go back and watch the all 22.
Yeah. Now I'm going to defend Jalen Hurts and agree with you at the same time. The fact that I agree with you wholeheartedly, Ricky. He hasn't been as good this season as last season when it comes to decision making. But and Jody will know. Jody can tell you that one of the things, and Kenny Gainwell being open on wheel routes, a lot of times when the progression of the play is on the other side of the field, I always say these quarterbacks, they're not owls. They can't play. So their design, the play call says, all right, it might be AJ, it would be Devontae being the 2. And then if they get all the way to 3 or 4, maybe you turn to the other side of the field and you can find somebody. By that point, though, defenders are probably going to react, and what looks wide open, isn't really wide open because the defense understands where the progression is going. So they're not as concerned with the other side of the field. So I agree with your general thoughts, but you got to be very careful. I say all the fans because they constantly, because anybody, what you're talking about, NFL Plus, they give it to us. Anybody who's got $99 can also get it. And you have all these people taking screenshots of wide open receivers in every game, not just the Eagles game. But you got to be careful with that stuff because if you don't know where the progression is, now sometimes maybe the progression is on that side and Jalen should see it. But if it's on the other side of the field, he's not going to be able to see Kenny Gainwell on the wheel route. So partially, I agree with you. He hasn't been as good, but boy, NFL Plus is in a lot of ways, there's unintended consequences and people looking at the all 22. And I can tell the coaches get frustrated because I talk to them all the time and it's not even the stinking progression. So it's part good, part bad. But as a whole, Jalen Hurts, I don't think has been as good as last season, but I still think he's been really good. I think it's crazy the way people.
Well, and let's also be honest. His offensive line, as good as it is, and with the reputation that it has, I don't think the offensive line has been as good or as efficient as it was last season, which also will contribute to my downgrading the overall grade for Jalen this season. And maybe my standard. Remember, I have a certain standard of what is an ace in a starting rotation in baseball as compared to the man in the gray goatee, whose level for ace may be different than mine. So it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Yeah.
But in the overall scheme of things, I don't think he's been as good as he was last year. But I do agree with you, John, at the same time that there are other elements involved that have maybe dragged that grade down a little bit.
Yeah, Rickie's got about 7 aces in all of Major League Baseball.
I'm with Rickie.
Well, maybe Yamamoto. We'll see if Yamamoto joins that.
You're ready to put Yamamoto in, but not Aaron Nola.
No,
okay. Remember he said that, Philly fans.
When you wait to see.
When you call Rickie on WIP.
Yeah. I was by the way, real quick baseball thought. Daisuke Matsuzaka, I was turned on him in the gyro ball. I bought into that hype and I said, come on. All these guys come over from Japan. They make this stuff up and they're really good. Ohtani's phenomenal. But I mean, yeah, I got to wait and see because I remember you remember the gyro ball, Rickie?
Sure.
Where did that come? Where was that? I never saw it.
Yeah,
anyway.
It didn't quite pan out. Anyway, Rickie, although it makes for a less enthusiastic chant, will we hear from the Eagle fans on Sunday, run the ball effectively? Because you need to add the effectively. Just run the ball isn't quite enough. But this past week, they ran the ball and they ran it effectively, which means that offensive line, which you just referenced, did their job. Pass blocking and run blocking, I don't think they lived up to their own standard of the best in the National Football League. Can they get on a roll of running the ball effectively, starting last week against the Giants and going through the end of the season, wherever that may be?
Yes, I do think they can run the ball. If I just sent you the my pregame prep, which is done by the great Dave Gerhardt. John, I know you know Dave.
Oh yeah, I'm addicted to Dave's notes, by the way.
Well, I just sent. I don't have your email. I just sent it to Jody. Jody can forward it to you. It's fantastic. This line has 22. This is a number that really stuck out to me. 22 false start penalties this season, which is just for this particular line. If you tell me the New York Jets or Washington Commanders, but for this group to have 22 false start penalties this year, I think is a number that really sticks out to me. But I agree. Just the mere fact of running the football is one thing. Running it effectively and using Swift, getting Gainwell, the ultimate giant killer is Boston Scott. They didn't get him involved in anything other than running into Zacchaeus head first in a head first collision on a kickoff, for Pete's sake. But and I was the crowd that was right below me started that whole chant of run the ball, and it got really loud towards the end of the game. But no, I agree. It's not just running the football; it's running it effectively, and they were able to do it last week without, or this past Sunday without Dickerson, or Monday, whatever it was.
By the way, Jalen Hurts with the rare clapback against the fans, he was like, "Yeah, you're not supposed to make noise when the offense has the football," which he's 100% correct. Now, if you look at this, what's ironic to me about this offense, they're number 8 overall, Ricky, which is pretty good. They're far better rushing the ball than passing the ball. Number 6 overall rushing the ball. Number 7 in points per game. Number 2 in third down offense. Number 1 in fourth down offense. Number 10 in red zone offense. They're basically top 10 in everything. What they're not top 10 in is turnover ratio.
Yes.
If they didn't turn the football over, if they were taking care of the football, would we even have any of these narratives about this offense is struggling and you got to change play callers and all this? It's pretty good when you compare it to the rest of the teams in the NFL. And isn't that what you should do? That's the context of it.
The raw numbers, you're right, John. The fact of the matter is that they don't create turnovers. Okay, so when the turnover ratio is so one-sided, because this team, this defense, isn't creating turnovers. So in your mind's eye, you can kind of balance it out if you're taking the ball away from the other side a little bit because it sticks in your head. But the turnovers seem to be so one-sided. They all seem to be, Eagle turnovers, and this defense hasn't been turning over. And the fact that they can't get off the field on third down, I mean, they're one of the worst, if not the worst. I think they went into last week's game as
they were the worst. They're up to number. I gotta look it up. They're better. Matt Patricia, baby. They're number 30 now. Number 30.
Oh, it went from 32 to 30 as far as getting off the field on third down. So there's a lot of little things that stick into in the back of your mind. But I agree with you. The offense. I don't think the offense was the culprit so much in the 3-game losing streak, and the fact that they're continuing to win games. I said this after the Buffalo game when I went on WIP right after the post-game show. I asked the question, is this sustainable? And what I meant by that was, could this team continue winning games against quality opponents the way they were doing it? Okay, by the skin of their teeth, by a play here, a play there, going the wrong way for the opponent. Valdez-Scantling, dropping a pass. Gabe Davis going one way, and the quarterback throwing it the other way for the Buffalo Bills. Was this sustainable? And obviously the answer was no. They go on that 3-game losing streak, and to your point, I don't think the offense was as much at fault during that 3-game losing streak as the defensive side of the ball was. So, in essence, to get back to your original question, the offense, although Jalen has not been, and I know I'm a hard grader, so I'll go from that C+ to a B-, which is a little bit better anyway. But I think for some of the things that have brought much of the chagrin to the Eagle fan base lately, I think I'd have to lean a little bit more towards what happened on the defensive side than even on the offensive side of the ball.
All right. One thing, I'll side with the fans on this one. Jalen, toughen up. Don't make noise while we got the ball. Come on. You got to play all those games on the road. You got to put up a little noise when your team's got the ball. I'm not coming down on the fans.
No, of course not. And they ask for noise. They plead for noise when the other team has the football. So,
well, that's wonderful. No, I'm gonna. Hey, smart. Philadelphia's supposed to be a smart fan base. You're supposed to make noise for the other offense, not your own offense.
So you're supposed to sit on your hands and be a church mouse when the Eagles have the ball?
If you want to call yourself a smart fan base, you can make all the noise you want, but when that clock hits 15 and you let the offense do what they need to do, that's just the way it is.
You and I'll disagree on this one.
Yeah,
you pay, you go in, you do whatever the hell you want, and if you're a little loud, you got to be able to suck it up and get that done.
And as lubricated,
you got to do it on the road. You can't do it at home. Come on.
Well, those are two different discussions. You can do whatever you want. I'm not saying you can't. I'm saying if you want to call yourself a smart,
Jalen saying they can't.
I'm saying if you want to call yourself a smart fan base and you want to help your team, help your team. That's all I'm saying.
Well, as lubricated as that fan base can get prior to the game, and they, once they get in that building, they're ready to get a good percentage of that fan base is well lubricated from that parking lot. I don't know if they can discern
you got that. Hey,
from the other.
If you'll notice, guys, the Eagles will use silent counts at home on occasion. Not usually it's not for the noise, but it's usually when they're running tempo. But they will use the silent count at home. And you don't want to be the LA Chargers where you have to use the silent count at home because the other team is playing a home game.
Now, can I ask you guys a question?
Go.
Sure.
Okay, this came up during my broadcast on several occasions here where my partner and I were looking at certain formations. And I'll take you back to the Manning cast of a couple of weeks ago when Christian McCaffrey was on, and McCaffrey was basically saying, well, here, the Eagles are in this formation, they're going to do this, or the Eagles are in this formation and they're going to do that. I guess it was during the Seattle game. Has this offense, and I'm a broadcaster, I'm not a football analyst. You guys are more of a football analyst than I am. But if me and my partner can sit there and say, well, in this formation, the Eagles are going to do this, have they become a little predictable?
Go ahead, Jody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. In a word, yes. I think they have. Is it the worst thing that's ever happened? No. I think Christian McCaffrey's a really smart guy, and if he did a little film work, he could probably hit 9 out of every 10 plays with every team in the National Football League. So are the Eagles by themselves in that thing? No. That's the National Football League, but there are probably some teams that you'd only hit 6 out of 10 because they're that good at disguising. They have that much optionality built into their offense. I think there are other teams that work harder at it than the Eagles do. Are the Eagles the worst in the National Football League because Christian McCaffrey got a bunch on a Monday night podcast? No, I'm not going there. But is it a tough league to have a disguised play every time you come up to the line of scrimmage? Yeah, it is. It just they don't have enough hours in the week to be able to prepare to what's Ganon's favorite phrase? The whatever of oh shoot, I forget the phrase.
The illusion of complexity.
There it is. Thank you very much, John McMullen. They don't have it, and nobody else in the National Football League has it. Some have a slightly higher percentage than the Eagles, but the Eagles don't have it either.
That's
It's
actually
great if you kept them guessing every single play. Nobody in the NFL does that.
I'm gonna give Sean McVay credit for that one. That's a Sean McVay.
Right.
But
I know you.
I'm sure he stole it from somebody as well.
From McVay, right?
I'm sure McVay stole it from somebody as well. But he's the first one I heard it from. But so I'll give him credit. But I agree with Jody. Christian McCaffrey can call out every 9 plays. Tony Romo used to do it in the booth.
All the time.
There was Rickie. There was a famous NFL Films clip on when Luke Kuechly, one of the great linebackers of his generation, he's calling out every play. He knew every single play. I guarantee in that Seattle game that Christian was doing, I guarantee you Bobby Wagner knew every single play. A lot of these guys know what's coming. It's about execution. Jimmy Johnson wrote in his book, when the Cowboys were having their run, he had 3 running plays with Emmitt Smith in that offensive line. So, all right, go stop it. You know what's coming. It's like the Eagles in the push tush. Everybody knows that's predictable. Stop it. Yeah, so I think that Christian McCaffrey's so smart. He knows and he played the Eagles, obviously, so he did the film work. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't worry about that even a little bit because there's a bunch of players that know what's going on just from formations and things like that.
All right, question answered. Very good.
All right, let me ask you this one, Mr. Ricardo.
Mm-hmm.
We know that once again this week, Dallas Goedert, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith will be the 3 main targets of the Philadelphia Eagles passing game. Who should be the fourth target, which isn't going to be a lot, but to just draw the line at 3. We saw the one game where those were the only 3 guys who got the ball thrown their way, and afterwards it jumped off the stat page. Really? You didn't target one other player? So you need to go a little past 3. Not a lot, not going to be a balance. It's never going to happen. They're going to be the 3 main targets. Who do you think should be the 4th guy this week?
Well, this past week we saw Britton Covey get targeted on a couple of occasions and made his. I think that was his first ever catch. John, am I right?
Yeah.
Right.
And they gave him 1 snap and they didn't go back to it. I'm like, it worked.
It worked.
Yeah.
Calcaterra had a couple of catches.
That's going to be my out of the box answer. I'm like, I think Grant Calcaterra is a good receiver. I think they should give him more.
I'm going to go Zacchaeus. He's one of the guys that on occasion might be that 3rd or 4th option or 3rd or 4th read for Jalen Hurts on a play, and he gets open and maybe isn't the first choice and doesn't get the target. But Zacchaeus is a good route runner, especially in the red zone. So for the sake of answering the question, Jody, I think Zacchaeus is a guy that could surprise you here in these last couple of weeks.
I'm okay with either Calcaterra or Zacchaeus.
Yeah,
as long as it's not Quez. Don't think it's going to be Julio. Man,
it will not be Quez. That much I can tell you.
How about Albert Okwuegbunam?
Well, you know what we call him? Everybody calls him Albert O.
Oh,
right?
Albert O.
Yeah.
So on the Spanish broadcast, we just make it very simple. Alberto.
There you go.
Nice.
Works even better. Very good.
Yeah.
Albert will not be dressing. I can pretty much guarantee that, along with Rashad Penny. So, yeah, I you know what, the receivers, I've seen enough of the receivers. I don't know if Julio has anything left. Quez is Quez. Alameda does some nice things occasionally, but I don't see the consistency. I think Calcaterra has the potential to be a good pass receiving tight end. I'm like, and remember, with this offense, it's going to be 3 targets, something like that. But I think they should try to get him involved a little bit more. But yeah, it's half dozen, and it's probably going to be the running backs, either DeAndre or Kenny Gainwell
or Gainwell. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then again, this past week, how many times did they throw it to either of the running backs? Oh, they didn't. It just it isn't part of their offense. It's not a big part, even though my guy Ricky here saw Gainwell open on a wheel route on the other side of the field with the quarterback never got a look. They don't do it. They don't do it. Jalen doesn't do it. I don't think all of a sudden in the last game of the regular season, it's going to become a focal point of their offense. If you're a throw it to Gainwell.
Oh, definitely not a focal point. I'm just saying the occasional. And Kenny had a pretty good game receiving against the Giants. I forget what he had. I'll look it up real quick. He
did have 3 catches. You're right.
Yeah, 3 for 38.
Didn't have any.
It wasn't bad. Bad.
Ricky, what scares you more going into this game against the Cardinals? Kyler Murray throwing the football or Kyler Murray running the football?
Kyler Murray running the football. I watched a couple of nights ago. I sat down and watched the Cardinals-Bears game. The Bears came into that game on Sunday. I think it was on Sunday, right? This whole Sunday-Monday thing really got me thrown off.
Mm-hmm.
But Kyler Murray against a very good Bears defense, which was near the top or at the top of the league going into that game. Now they ended up winning the game, and the Cardinals only scored 16 points. But I tell you what, although they could only cash in for 16 points, Kyler Murray had a heck of a game. If he had any semblance of receivers, other than Greg Dortch,
baby.
And the tight end, McBride, if he had anybody to throw the football to, this might be a quasi-dangerous offense. But Kyler Murray has got an escapability, ability to get out of the pocket and get away from would-be tacklers. Unlike maybe Lamar, I can count on one hand the guys that can run around and escape tackles as well as Kyler Murray does. And I'm not sure the Eagles have the kind of speed or the kind of defenders that can stop him. So to your point, Jody, I'm not as much concerned about him throwing the ball because he really doesn't have too many weapons at his disposal. But when he takes off and starts running the football, he can make the defense look like they're in a rat maze. He is really, really good at that.
Yeah. Matt Patricia was talking about that yesterday, Ricky, about how he gets up to top speed so quickly. He just kind of destroys pursuit angles. At RR_Ricardo FAN. That is Rickie Ricardo on X, Twitter, voice of the Eagles in Espanol, as Jody says. Last one for me is Matt Patricia. The defense has gotten better, Ricky. Now
it has.
It helps when you're playing Drew Lock and Tommy DeVito instead of Josh Allen and Brock Purdy and the 49ers, and Dallas at home where they average 40 points a game. Part of it is just natural. You were going to get a little bit of a bump and be more successful, and that will likely continue against Arizona. As you mentioned, their issues, and the Giants again. Are you believing in Matt Patricia?
You know, I was starting to get to that point until I watched Jackson Smith and Jigma run right by Bradbury on that Monday night, which that play and that game may come back to bite the Eagles' keister unlike anything else for the remainder of this season. Because with that 49er loss, which I didn't pick, okay, I got to be honest with you, I thought the Niners would run right through the Ravens. But with that Raven victory over San Francisco, which gets them to 4 defeats and, you know, ties the record up, but obviously the tiebreaker goes to San Francisco. But if that one play, if we can sit here in a few weeks and look back and say, wow, that play may be the one that changed the course of this season and might be the difference between the Eagles being the number 1 overall seed and being 2 or 3, depending on what Detroit and Dallas do. I think the Eagles will win both these games. But you know, we've got to cheer for Dallas this week, which to Eagle fans is you know, nails on a blackboard. It's, you know, it's almost poisonous or blasphemous to say. But I thought the defense played much better. Granted, it was Locke, as you said, against Seattle. Granted, it was DeVito who gets, you know, benched halfway through this game. No more Cutlets. Aaron Judge
no more Cutlets.
Back from buying him dinner a couple of nights ago in New York. So what restaurant? Do we know, Jody? Where the heck were they?
I have no idea.
Aaron Judge picks up the tab for Pete's sake?
Well, I hope Aaron picked up the tab. I mean, come on.
He's got a couple more bucks than Tommy Cutler.
Yeah, but no, to your point, John, I think the defense, and especially this week, we had no linebackers, had no Nick Morrow on the field.
Nick's coming back. Zach's coming back. Brandon Graham just plowed through all the Sirianni subterfuge.
Yeah, I want to see. I'm interested to see how the defense reacts this week with a legitimate guy that you have to game plan against in Kyler Murray. They're not the best team, the Cardinals. They're not going to beat the Eagles, but to judge specifically how the defense is improving against a guy like Murray and James Conner, and you know they've got some outlets to go to there. The Cardinals do, I think, more than what the Giants have. Then it's interesting to me to see how they react this week, and I could much better answer that question after Sunday 1:00 against a guy like Murray. But no, I do agree that under Patricia for these last couple of weeks, at least on the surface, they look better.
All right, Ricky, here's my last one.
All right.
And I'll go a little bit more tip of the spear than John just did, called it Sirianni subterfuge. I'll go with lying because Sirianni lied.
Competitive advantage, Jody.
Screw competitive advantage. Nick Sirianni said after the game that maybe he needs to be a little bit more emotionally constrained. That he's shown a little too much on the sidelines. Maybe it was tied to the shouting match that he got in with Hassan Reddick, but he capsulized himself as a guy who's got to be a little bit more careful, a little bit more under control. Is he lying to himself? Is he lying to us? Will he actually try and change going into this week? If you believe that Sirianni, and I do, has got to be a little bit more controlled. This is a big week for the Eagles, not only in the standings, but John and Jeff Kerr and who else did we have on Monday? Both of our guests are
Andrew DeCecco.
Andrew DeCecco said after the game in the locker room, you couldn't tell that the Eagles won, that there was no joy involved, that their emotions were like, yeah, but that's not good at this stage of the season, Ricky. They need to be upbeat. They need to believe in themselves. They got to be up, and they're taking their cue from their coach, and their coach is admitting, yeah, maybe I'm a little bit too emotional. Is Sirianni the right guy this week to set the right mindset and the right tempo in this locker room for these last two games of the season?
Gentlemen, of all the things that I will be watching Nick Sirianni for this week, it's not so much the adjustment or game plan on offense or defense. It will be exactly that, Jody McDonald. I want to see how he handles the emotion and how he takes back control of his football team. The coordinators, they'll make adjustments. They'll do the little intricacies of game planning against this particular football team. But the same way those players felt, the same way that those reporters you just mentioned described the locker room, I felt the exact same way as I walked out of Lincoln Financial Field and went to the radio station on Monday evening. It was a win that felt like a loss. Now, here's the problem. Short of maybe the Tampa Bay game and the Miami game this year, short of those two, I have felt that way the majority of this particular season, even though we have a record of 11 up and 4 down. I have yet to walk out of that stadium this year. And it could have been the Dolphin game that, to me, I guess was the most complete victory of the season so far this year. I felt that way to an extent all year long. So this whole notion of, well, they haven't played their best game yet, blah, 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 that all falls back on the coach. And if you had just arrived from, I don't know, Ecuador somewhere, and you didn't know one thing or the other, and you were asked who won this game on Monday evening, and you didn't know the difference, you'd probably be perplexed as who the winners were coming off the field. So yeah. I want to see how Sirianni regains control of this team and steers his ship back in a more positive direction starting this week and then going to the Meadowlands the following week. That, to me, is more of an intriguing thing to watch for this week than anything else. Does it have anything to do with Dom? Was Dom a guy that might
controlled Nick Sirianni? I've heard that theory.
Well, I've heard that too. Is this a big Dom thing that there's nobody to remind him?
Finally won a game. They hadn't won a game without Dom on the sideline, so they broke that streak. We'll see if that continue. I've heard that before with Dom.
Wait, time out, Philadelphia. You're both doing this tongue in cheek, right?
No. Yeah, if you think about Sean McVay, I talked about Sean. Remember, he had the get back coach. Everybody was in there. That was Ted Rath, by the way, works for the Eagles now. He had the get back. Sean McVay was so into the game, he would walk onto the field, and Ted Rath, you never saw it, would pull him back, and he'd have to keep him in the box. These guys get too emotional. Now, I don't think it's that.
I don't think it's tongue firmly planted in cheek for me, but yeah. I want to see some more Pete Carroll per se in Nick Sirianni this week, than what we've seen the last couple of weeks. I want to see emotion from my head coach, but I want to watch him.
I want a calm, rational guy in big spots. I'd rather have a calm, rational presence. Now, other people want the energy and want the fired up guy. So it kind of depends on, I just think of it in life in general. If you're emotional, you're probably not going to make the best decision. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, but the best of the best is upside emotion when things are good, calm and rational when things are going bad. If you can pull that off, then that's the best of both worlds. It's not necessarily easy to do.
Is there a guy that embodies that? over the years that sticks out in our minds? Is it Parcells?
Most of them, yeah, Bill's a good one. Bill's a good one. Most of them are like Andy or Bill, and they're calm and, pretty much rational most of the time. But Bill's a good one. Bill would get fired up.
Andy's sideline started going off the rails a little bit this past, Monday also.
Yeah, everybody. If you coach as much as those two guys, Andy and Bill Belichick, you're going to have bad seasons. You're going to have bad. I mean, they didn't become bad coaches overnight. It's a cyclical thing. Tom Brady ruined the NFL for people judging because they won 6 Super Bowls. Like it's easy. You're seeing how difficult it is to get back to the Super Bowl here. The Eagles have the best record in the NFC, tied for the best record in the NFC. Everybody thinks they're having a crappy season. It's hard. It's hard. And Tom Brady kind of skewed the whole measuring stick for everybody, I think.
Yeah, he did. All right, Rickie Ricardo, thank you very much for coming on. All right, I got one more quickie for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you go to New Jersey for a game, when you go to MetLife,
yeah,
is there a Newark place you hit back to the old days? Before, after the game, you just got to go and get some food or something before you.
No.
My Sopranos joke.
I go to Ferry Street Barbecue. There is nothing, gentlemen. You got to go into Down Neck, the Brazilian/Portuguese neighborhood in Newark, which is basically right behind their version of Penn Station, or the train station.
Really? It's that close? Because I take the train in there all the time. Walking distance from the train station?
Walking distance from the train station, okay? There is a place, Jody, you got to go here. It's called Ferry Street Barbecue. It's just a couple of blocks behind the train station. What you get for your money there is unbelievable, okay? If you are a lover of grilled chicken, grilled steak, fresh salad, all the sides, everything at a very, very humble price, then you must take the walk over. It's only 3 blocks on Ferry Street.
Oh, nice.
Right on the corner. Is
that the opposite way of the Prudential Center then?
But it's 2 short blocks. Me and my buddies every winter, we'll do this at some point. We're Devils fans. We make the trip to that. We go first about 6 o'clock to Ferry Street Barbecue, spend the hour eating there, which is incredible. You walk out of there, you'll never want to eat again. And then we take the short walk over to the Prue, to the Rock, to watch a Devil hockey game. So I'm telling you, you're going to remember me when you go over here. It's called Ferry Street Barbecue, just a couple blocks. I guess that would be east of Penn Station in Down Neck, Newark, New Jersey. Portuguese/Brazilian style barbecue. Incredible food. Very, very, for under $25.
Nice.
You will walk out of there like you went to Peter Luger's.
Very nice. And by the way, I'll wait for a WWE show. I don't need to see the Devils. Hell with the Devils. I'm sure Vince or Hunter will schedule a show in there at some point. That's when I'll do my.
AEW uses that. AEW
goes in there a lot. Yeah. They do pay-per-views in Newark.
Yeah.
Well, either way. Rickie, thanks, buddy. Appreciate you getting up early, specifically because you were out late last night. Didn't hit the Ferry Street Barbecue, but that's okay. You'll live. We'll get you back up when the playoffs roll along. Thanks.
Happy New Year, everybody.
That is Rickie.
You too, Rickie. Thanks.
Voice of the Eagles in Espanol here with us on Birds 365. I don't know why I thought of that. Just because I know he's a Newark guy and he doesn't always get back up to North Jersey as much as he used to, specifically on the Jersey side. He goes into New York to do Yankee stuff, but Ferry Street Barbecue. I'm gonna have to check that.
Penn Station, Newark. Yeah, easy. If you're going to the Prudential Center, you gotta take New Jersey Transit. Easy.
It's been a while since I've been there, but I used to be there twice a week, every week in the Penn Station over in New Jersey, and I never knew of the Ferry Street Barbecue. So I'm gonna, if the circumstances fit, I'm gonna have to check that out. All right, McMullen and McDonald coming back. Oh, for those of you who have been waiting, where is the voice of doom and gloom? The man, the myth, the legend himself. Bob Grotz hasn't been with us in more than a month. It's absolutely been more than a month since Grotz has been with us, and we kind of expect him to do a victory lap by James Bradbury. I'm going to have to eat some crow on that. I put Bradbury on a pedestal and he's come tumbling back down. Grotz always stuck to, yeah, but he's not fast. He's slow. I don't know how he's doing it because he's slow. He's looking awfully slow these days. Well, not as bad this week as last week, but Bob Grotz going to join us coming up in less than 15 minutes. So stay right here on Birds 365.
Any professional sports coach will tell you there's no substitution for preparation. At McMullen Associates, that is a tenet by which we live. We prepare from day one for victory. Anything less is not acceptable.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction, go with trust,
Go Birds!
and go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
Underdog Fantasy has a way for you to play alongside your favorite football team all season long with their fantasy pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats, then do what you usually do on a Sunday, watch the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, and the Sports Betting Show wants you to get involved. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up, use the promo code WIN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
EAGLES, Eagles.
You got your Mac and Mac guys on a Thursday. Let's all check the calendar and the date so we know what the hell day it is and where we're going forward. It's a Thursday, and the Eagles play Sunday at 1. Johnny Mac's favorite time, my favorite time when
Oh my
football's
God.
supposed to
I
be
am
played.
irrationally excited about a 1 o'clock game. I put that on. I'm so excited to have a 1 o'clock game. I can't even tell you.
I know where you come from. It's sorry. That's just everyone's got their own life and way of doing things, but Sunday at 1 fits into my life perfectly. That's when the games are supposed to be played. So that's the case this week. So we're sitting on a Thursday. Johnny Mac told us top of the show. Full practice today, full media availability. Get back on a sked, see where we go from here. And the sked says it's the Cardinals coming to town. And the Eagles just have to win the game. Plain and simple. Forget this is a get right game or this is a we're going to blow them. Just win, baby. Get back to Al Davis. When the Eagles were finding ways to win games in weird ways, different ways, I said here and on WIP, Al Davis would love this team because that's all they do is just win, baby, when they were 10-1. Then they just stopped winning, baby, and we all had issues. But they did win this past week against the Giants. They need to do the same against the Cardinals, and we'll discuss all that with Bob Grotz coming up in less than 10 minutes from now. But, Johnny Mac, I got to ask you one question, non-Eagle related. because when this came down yesterday, you know how much I appreciate your football opinion on everything in football. The Denver Broncos, out of nowhere, and I give them this much credit because after the fact now there's all this amazing reporting that they first asked Russell Wilson to redo his contract weeks ago. Even after he'd won a couple of games, they went to him and said, Russ, we need you to redo your contract in case you get hurt. We can't be on the hook for all this injury stuff. You got to redo this for us. And Russell Wilson, at least in my opinion, rightfully said, no, I only got here a year and a half ago, and you gave me an extension. We all agreed on an extension. When my contract had 2 years to run on it, we agreed to a 5-year extension. So you now want me to redo an extension, which hasn't even started yet. He's still on his original Seattle contract. The 5-year extension hasn't kicked in yet, and you want me to rip it up and redo it. So Russell very politely, I'm sure, said, yeah, no, I'm not interested in doing that. So Denver makes the decision to pull the plug when they're still in playoff contention.
Yeah.
When Russell Wilson is playing better. Now, he's not playing to the Russell Wilson level of Super Bowl Russell in Seattle, but he was pretty damn bad last year. If you're going to do it, why didn't you do it last year? When the day Sean Payton took over, say, all right, we're scrapping everything. We're going to take a massive step backwards and rebuild it under Sean from that. No, they play on, and Russell's playing better, and somehow they decide that Jarrett Stidham gives them a better chance to win these last.
Well, I don't believe that part of it.
Oh, the coach said it yesterday. Our number one priority is still winning games.
I heard Sean talk. I mean, he's 35. First thing when you said, what do you think? I think about it from an Eagles perspective. What if Russell Wilson considered the Eagles back in the day? People don't like to, back in 2021, that coming into that situation, he might have been the quarterback here. I think it would have been a little bit better, but sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. So I start with the Eagles, but from the Broncos perspective, I heard Sean talking about, I can't change the 5 offensive linemen. I can't change the 5 receivers. But yeah, the one part I'm not buying is he gives them a better chance to win on Sunday or Saturday, whenever they're playing this week. I mean, Jarrett Stidham, come on. It's just, he's not playing up to the level of the contract. They want to start over. They're going to reboot. They're going to cut him in March. They're going to take the big. Jeffrey Lurie started all this with Carson Wentz. At the time, it seemed so astronomical. Now people are saying, you know what? We're going to move on and take big cap hits and do all that stuff. Do I agree with it? I think it's a good thing from an organizational perspective that you admit you aren't. I always say the toughest thing is to be honest with yourself. Like, I don't think the New York Giants were honest with themselves last year. I don't. And I think they're paying for it now. A little bit of fool's gold with making the playoffs, getting a win. Talk about it all the time. Are they being honest with themselves? Yes. In Russell's case, though, I always support the player because this is a brutal industry. They don't care. They'll move on. They'll turn the page. They won't live up to contract. So when fans say, live up to the contract, when guys are maybe complaining, get everything you can while you can, because it can turn very, very quickly. From just a pure football perspective, I agree with the Broncos. They're not going anywhere with Russell Wilson. He's 35 years old. If you can get ownership to reboot. That's where I would be. But to do it
but here's where I got to disagree with you. And I disagree with you vehemently and anybody else. Football is a roll of the dice. Life's a roll of the dice. You're going to run scared that he's going to get hurt in the last 2 games or a playoff
that
game
I agree with.
Well, that's the only thing that matters here. They're saying that that's why he said what he said, and he might actually believe it. And I would find that hard to believe that someone as smart as Sean Payton, ability to judge football, would do and say something like that. They think they have a better chance to win with Jarrett Stidham.
I don't believe that for a second. I don't believe that per second. It's only because of the money, as you mentioned. That you and I agree with. In the off season, as I said, in season it's weird. I think you're right. It's only about the injury guarantee, and if you're willing, and if you're willing to take the hit after the season, what's the big deal?
Exactly.
I mean,
try and win these 2 games. Try and make the playoffs.
That I agree with. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Try to make you're not, but try.
You're leaning toward moving away from him, taking that massive cap hit, think you're going in another direction. Fine. But while you're at it, win these last 2 games and make the playoffs. Gives your fan base a little something to cheer about. Roll the dice. He doesn't break a leg in week 17. Come on.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I don't believe any of them. Anytime you go to, like, what are you doing? Even Washington with Jacoby Brissett over Sam Howell. I mean, why?
Yeah, yeah,
but they're not in anything.
Hold on. Ed Kratz's fandom aside, Sam Howell. What has Sam Howell ever done? We know.
No, I'm not comparing him. I'm saying in any situation, it could be, Sharon Hall's probably going to start this week again. They're in their 17th quarterback.
Oh, you think they're going back to Hall?
Yeah, it's like why? You're still in it. I'm with you with the still in it. You got to play until you're out, and when you're out, all right, then do whatever. But I'm with you. They should try to make the playoffs. Anybody should try to make the playoffs. And then it's about playing the young guy. And that's why I brought up Washington. I just play the young guy. Once you're out of it.
But Denver's not out. The young guy has to be a guy that you have some faith in that he's eventually going to be the man. You got that faith? Should Washington have that faith in Sam Howell right now?
Maybe not.
I'm not talking about unquestioned. I'm just talking about a maybe. Is Sam Howell even a maybe at this stage anymore?
Well, it depends who the new GM and coach is going to be. So there's so much uncertainty in Washington. But in the case of, no matter who it is, Jacoby Brissett is not going to be that guy. So it's kind of like, maybe there's a 10% chance, probably less, but there's a 10%. There's literally a 0% chance. And do you really want to? And by the way, on top of that, to go Sam Hinkie on you, you got a better chance to win the game with Brissett. And you probably don't want to win the game. You probably want to lose and maximize your draft process. So it's always different in what situation you're in. But in the case of Russell, I'd play him until they're out of it. And the same thing with even though Nick Mullins is Nick Mullins, I'd play him until they're out of it. But they're probably going to go to Jaron Hall. So, it's a new age. I don't agree with that part of it. But, I mean, clearly Sean Payton wants to go in a different direction. They're going to go in a different direction. But I am surprised they're starting it this in season. And it's only to save a couple bucks, let's be honest, to insurance policy in case he gets hurt, which is, as you mentioned, the NFL's weird, and because guys do get hurt. It's not like injuries can happen in baseball and basketball, but they're not going to be catastrophic. Occasionally they are. Paul George, had that horrific injury, but it's very, very rare. In the NFL, it's way more legitimate a concern, but they're taking it to a level where it seems crazy to me.
And I did note this today, just off the top of your head. See if you can guess. Teams in the National Football League, 32. How many of them are 8-7 or 7-8?
Oh, a lot. 24 teams are still in it. I know that. 24 of the 30. Out of those
24, how many are 8-7 or 7-8?
I don't know. We got 12. We got 5. It's got to be 15-ish.
13. 13 of the teams. More than 1/3 of the league is 8-7 or 7-8. Right there in the dead middle. That's amazing. That's just the way the league is played out this year.
And that's why.
By the way, Eagles are 11-4. As we note that, As we note that more than 1/3 of the league is just below 500. The Eagles are 7 games over.
And that's
500.
why the Eagles standard is hurting them. Not only is hurting them, and guys aren't having fun. I asked Nick that on Tuesday after the game. Tuesday. He said, we're having fun. There's no evidence you're having fun. and as you mentioned, they're 11-4. They haven't played up to the fan base's standard or their standard.
Right.
But guess what? Everybody else is 7-8 and 8-7. And yeah, I mean,
one team in the National Football League that has a better record than the Eagles. The Baltimore Ravens. That's it. 1 out of 32 has a better record than the Eagles. All right, he's McMullen. I'm McDonald. That makes us Mac and Mac Birds 365. We will add one of our favorites. We haven't had him in a while. I missed him. Good to get him back in the mix.
He's there. He's in the green room.
I know he's there. I heard him pop on. We will punch him up next.
He's in his luxury vehicle.
The Prince of Darkness himself, and he can revel in the fact that James Bradbury is struggling as much as he is. Our buddy from the Delco Times, Bob Grotz. Next on Birds 365.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Underdog Fantasy has a way for you to play alongside your favorite football team all season long with their fantasy pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats, then do what you usually do on a Sunday, watch the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, and the Sports Betting Show wants you to get involved. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up, use the promo code WIN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLEX Eagles.
Yeah, Mac and Mac here on Birds 365, and as John McMullen correctly told you, in the luxurious vehicle he drives, Bob Grotz joined us before he hits the road here on Birds 365. Where are you off to, Grotz?
I got to tell you, I've been here since last Thursday when John was supposed to have me on the 920 show last Thursday.
Oh, boy. Yeah, we miscommunicated.
I wanted to stay ready. said you could do it next Thursday. So here I am. Let's do it, baby.
You look like you showered though, so you had to leave the car at some point.
Going down to practice. Are you going down to practice? Are you stopping?
And I just stepped outside and lathered up a little bit.
Very good.
Big day. Brandon Graham, as I said, pretty much stopped the Sirianni subterfuge this week. The Eagles are getting a lot of players back. How excited are you to get Nick Morrow, Zach Cunningham, potentially Avonte Maddox back for a Matt Patricia defense, Bob Grotz?
And they got to be better than last week. And I thought Van Sumeren was all right, but I also believe
Shaq Leonard was all right. What are you talking about?
I got overestimated. He guessed right on one play and he made a big play. He guessed wrong on the next play and it was a big gain. I mean, he did do one thing right. Get the crowd into it.
Yes, he did get the crowd into it. Got a lot of juice. Yeah.
But he's the guy. He was basically on the streets, right? I mean,
not really.
Well,
yeah,
he was on the street from an NFL perspective, not from his life perspective.
Yeah, he could have helped the Colts. He would still be there. Now, he's helped them a little bit, but he also made mistakes, and that whole team. You watch the replay of the Eagles game. That the whole Eagles team was one mistake after the other, and I almost forgot about Hurts at the 2-yard line instead of going out of bounds.
Yeah, well, that was a bad mistake.
That was not good.
That reminded me a little bit of Kyler Murray last year when the Eagles.
Yes.
And he had that brain fart. He needed 10. He went down. There was nobody there. He went down at 9, and he had to burn his third down with a spike so they could try. Otherwise, he would have had 3 shots at the end zone. So, but and I don't buy this. There's like a narrative out there that this is the NFL today. I don't buy that. There's other teams that don't make these kind of mistakes. So they got to get their stuff together in a hurry.
I will disagree with you both on quote unquote on the street. You know who was on the street this year? Zach Cunningham for like 4 months on the street. Leonard got released and he could have signed the next day if he wanted to. Either the Cowboys and Eagles would have signed him. So if you're on the street for 1 day as compared to 4 months, who is more on the street, Shaq Leonard or Zach Cunningham?
On the street is on the street. Hey,
it's just an NFL term. You're a street free agent.
By the way, about to be on the street is Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Because he had a no trade clause. No one.
Well, that'll be March. Yeah, but off season also, Jody's different than in season. A lot of the veteran guys wait on purpose because they don't want to go through all the nonsense of the off season.
Hey, I got it. As soon as I heard that, I went back to all the Carson Wentz nonsense, and I thought about how they bit the bullet on what was that, a record $30 million in dead money, John?
Dead cap money.
Yeah.
It's going to be 90.
Which was astronomical at the time. It was like unthinkable. I remember Andrew Branton was on the show. He said, "There's no way they're doing that," and I agreed with Andrew because nobody had done it. And nobody had ever done it before, and the Eagles pulled the trigger. Now everybody's, we'll
just
dump.
move on.
Yeah.
Time to move on.
Yeah,
they were talking about $91 million.
Yeah, it's unbelievable how it's exploded. That's Walmart money right there, baby.
Yeah, that's
Denver. Yeah.
Oh man.
And by the way, and I did see this last night. The team that signs him. There is layover language for his contract with Denver. Anything he makes with his new team, Denver doesn't have to pay. Whoever he signs with, he will sign for the veteran minimum because he's not getting any more money. He's going to it's going to max out at what Denver owes him. So the veteran minimum is what he's going to sign for. So there's going to be a team that's going to sign him. I guarantee you get Russell Wilson for veteran minimum money. Of course you're going to do that.
Yeah. No,
there's a lot of bad quarterbacks. A lot of, well, how many quarterbacks have started? We're at like 58. There have been 58 different starting.
It's not double yet. It's not 64.
I do not think it's 64.
For last week, the Giants game.
Yeah.
That Tommy DeVito.
Oh yeah, that was tough. That was. I said I don't know how Dayball can look at Saquon Barkley and Dexter Lawrence and all their good players and say, all right, Now, it's understandable. I said when Taylor was hurt, yeah, he had to play. Then there's no issue. But when Taylor got healthy, I don't know how he sold that to the locker room. I really don't.
Insulting. Yeah, it really is. I mean, because there's guys that like Dexter Lawrence.
Yeah, good player, man. Dexter Lawrence.
He's a really good player.
Yeah. And you're asking those guys to go out there and and Dexter, by the way, was hurt in that game. He had a hamstring. He barely practiced. And you're saying go out there and put your body on the line. I'm not gonna. Yeah, I don't know how coaches do that.
It's still hard for me to fathom like the points that the Eagles gave up and the way they gave them up too. The pick six, the deep ball.
There could have been more. If Darren Waller was going for a touchdown, if Hassan Reddick didn't put pressure on Taylor, I mean, there was nobody. And if he had time to get the ball where he needed to get the ball, so there's still some issues.
There could have
on
been
that defense.
Pick six too. Isaiah Simmons.
Yeah,
I mean, drop that ball. Like he looked like one of us. Trying to catch. Get. I mean, he was. There was no way he could get caught. So, yeah. I mean, and all that said, they won. How about that on the last play?
They did hold on and win. All right. You mentioned the fact that Waller could have made a big play. Let's be honest, and there's been guys in and out of the lineup, injuries and everything else. Doesn't matter who's been on the field. Eagles have had some issues covering tight ends all year. And I think McBride is their best option in their passing grit game. That's why Zach Ertz, talking about a street free agent, Zach's still out on the street. Thought he's going to come here, wrong. Thought he's going to go to Baltimore. They like the kid likely, filling in for wrong. He hadn't gotten a gig, hadn't gotten a job, and McBride is the one who pushed him out of Arizona. Who are they going to have cover him this weekend, Bob Grotz?
Well, it doesn't, the Eagles, they're the back end of their defense, Jody. It's not just the tight end. Who are they going to have covering them? They can't cover anybody. I mean, look at them. I mean, and it's been that way for the last month. I mean, and a lot of people criticize the pass rush. They're not getting there. Well, they're throwing it in 2 seconds. It's 1-2, bang, it's out. Because they
well, that was DeVito, but Taylor hung on to the football, and he was trying to make plays.
It's because they can't cover. They can't even give you that 2 seconds to get to that extra second to get to the quarterback. So, and that's a huge problem. I was looking at teams that they might play in the playoffs, and I'm thinking, do they match up with them? Do they match up with the Lions? Say they play them in the playoffs.
Better be here.
They better
be at Lincoln Financial Field.
They better score some points. They got to win a shootout, man. They got to win a shootout.
The Lions can't stop anybody, but they can run the ball and they get turnovers. And I mean, the Eagles, their formula right now is a little bit the Cowboys. Even the Cowboys here is going to be a tough game. Even the 49ers.
What about the Rams? Are you afraid of the Rams?
Not if the game is here. Yeah, if it's out there, yeah, that would be. That's another one too. They're definitely playing a bunch of young guys though, so they're not tournament tested. But I'm looking at this, and sure, the Eagles beat the lowly, the 7th or 8th seed, whoever they play, they'll beat them with no problem. But I don't like the way they match up with these other teams. And you ask me, Nick Sirianni's got a right to be, cross, and snarling on that sideline and yelling at people.
Is he too emotional? Is he too emotional, Bob? Because why is he yelling at Hassan Reddick? He's the only guy giving him anything on defense. Why the hell are you yelling at Hassan Reddick?
Well, I will find out, right? We'll ask Hassan, and Hassan will say, I don't want to talk about that right now. You can ask me something else, but no, we'll find out eventually. I think he wanted him just to go back into the game, and Devontae Smith he's the new Big Dom on the sideline.
He's trying to make peace. Devontae,
what's going on there? Little guy. No, I mean their whole. I mean that drama on the sideline, and Nick brought this on himself. Don't get me wrong. I mean, his antics.
Yeah, it happens too often. Now, he said he's got to tone it down. But he's done this in the past. You know, in the same press conference, by the way, where he said he's got to tone it down. He said the key with everybody makes mistakes, but the key is you can't make them again. Well, how many times has he made the same mistake? I mean, yeah, you either do it or you don't do it. And maybe he's not capable of doing it.
Yeah. Well, but they, all that said, I mean, that they still have an offense that can be really potent. And that offensive line is in gear. They've had some struggles too. And there is a blueprint out there to attack the Eagles. And the more I watch that Giants game, I really like the way Wink Martindale attacked them. I mean, that was a brilliant game plan. And that caused some of those mistakes, So people are going to see that. There's a variety of ways to do it. Now, this week with Arizona, they don't have any players at all. So I don't think it's going to be much of an issue. And even though Ganon knows them intimately and which way Hurts wants to step or do this, it's not going to make a difference. I don't think. I don't expect this game to be close for more than a quarter.
Ooh, okay, that's good to know. Good news.
I like Kyler Murray, though. I do like. I mean, but he just does. You mentioned the tight end. He's got no other weapons, really. I mean, because that other guy, who's the guy they got from Baltimore, the slot
Marquise Brown.
Yeah, Marquise Brown. He's fast.
He's just really disappointing, though. And
you know who's disappointing? Their other guy, sort of like Rondell Moore. I thought he was going to be a problem, and he really hasn't been. He's very quick. They do have some speed. Patricia mentioned that yesterday with Brown and Moore, and obviously Kyler. They are fast, but
the problem is they got 3 slot receivers, and you can only play one guy in the slot. You got to have somebody outside who can get something done.
From many points at all.
All right, let me run this by you, Bob, since it sounds like you're in agreement with John McMullen. John rightfully points out the Eagles' 3 opponents, last 3 that Sean Desai had a game plan against were Buffalo, San Francisco, and Dallas. The 3 opponents Matt Patricia's got to face have been Seattle, the Giants, and the Cardinals. Kind of easier sledding for Matt Patricia. So do you put as much heavy emphasis on the opponent when evaluating whether Matt Patricia has improved this defense or not?
I can't say that he's improved it. And you're right. It's basically because of the competition. And but we've just hit a really strange kind of warp in this whole Eagles season. I've covered the team since 92, right after Jerome Brown passed away in that tragic automobile crash. And they've never changed the coordinator this late in the season and gotten anywhere, or they've never even done that.
And they were 10-3. 10-3.
We're in the like the twilight zone here. I don't know if the young guys remember what that was, but I'm just waiting for Rod Serling to come out from behind the curtain and tell me that the season is not over, but it will be in 5 minutes for the Eagles. Like that. I mean, this is bizarro world or whatever. This is it doesn't get any.
And by the way, evidently Nick Sirianni started to muse about changing the defensive play caller when they were 8-1. When they were 8-1. So that's ironic to me because JG is coming back. It's JG week. And I think the Eagles were 8-1 when a certain radio host that Jody Mack is familiar with recommended he be fired. And JG kind of completed that with reporters saying it, which we certainly didn't say it.
Yeah.
But
well, it was definitely JG who suggested it to
yeah, he said it. Yeah, he said it. And he's right. So someone called for him to be fired when he was 8-1.
Yeah.
The Eagles started thinking about it with Sean Desai when they were 8-1. So maybe it isn't so crazy.
He saved Nick Sirianni by telling him to give up the play calling. I mean, let's be honest about that. It's all going to come back to us this week.
Of all the things that people think the Eagles are, and Bob, you were there yesterday. Slay spoke glowingly about him. Reed Blankenship, BG. I didn't talk to Pletch. I assume Pletch did. All the defensive guys love Ganon. Nick loves Ganon. But the one thing they were kind of PO'd about was that he kind of took credit for Nick Sirianni's step back from play calling. They didn't like that. They didn't like that. All the other stuff, manufactured kind of nonsense. Really is. Turn the page. And by the way, they wouldn't like Vic Fangio's defense. I say that all the time. If the timing worked out, they wouldn't like Vic Fangio's defense.
That could be. And I heard an interesting little ditty from recently from Schefter, and he said that Ganon he kept the Eagles hanging so long that Fangio
Fonzie. Call him Fonzie.
He had to make a decision on what he was going to. He said that Schefter said that Fangio wanted to was highly considering the Eagles as his next employer.
Eagles wanted, but here's the thing, and he had been Adam, and I'll say it to everybody, and nobody questions Adam. He accepted the Dolphins job on January 29th. Anybody could look it up if they want to look it up. Tom Pelissero was the first to report it. He agreed to terms with the Dolphins on January 29th. That date is key for this reason. That was the date of the NFC Championship game. Ganon had no idea he was leaving. In fact, he told John Clark he was coming back because he got turned down by Houston. The call from Monty Ossenfort came in the days after the NFC Championship game. The timing didn't work out.
Was that on one of those burner phones that the Cardinals were using?
It could have been. Monty self-reported it. When
stuff comes up, I don't believe any of those dates and stuff. I mean, I do believe the date that Fangio agreed to terms, but you could get out of that. I mean, that's not.
Well, the Eagles tried. The Eagles tried to get him
third-day draft pick or something. But I think that the
Eagles tried. And by the way, if the Eagles got Vic Fangio, and by the way, Vic would not do that. And I said it at the time. Vic was not going to, he agreed, and he wasn't going to Josh McDaniels, the Miami Dolphins, who, by the way, gave him the largest coordinator contract in NFL history on top of it. He wasn't. The Eagles tried. Tim McManus did a great job this week. The Eagles tried to change his mind during the lead up to the Super Bowl. He wasn't going to change his mind. He's not Josh McDaniels. He values his reputation, and he agreed to terms with Miami, and he lived up to what he agreed to. People got to turn the page, man. Bob, they got to turn the page.
I can't turn the page on Ganon. When I see him walk, Jonathan Ganon owes Jalen Hurts an MVP in the Super Bowl. He owes the Eagles a Super Bowl. He had 1 foot out the door and he knew it, you know.
Yeah.
By the way, I'll put in a bid if it ever comes to auction on one of those burner phones, you know, if it happened to be.
By the way, Slay,
you'd be able to retrieve the data. I'm sure of that. Mr. Electronics himself, Bob Grotz, you'd be able to figure it out. Yeah, that's happening. All right. Now, I want to turn back the clock to your younger days, as you mentioned, when you got onto the beat. As a matter of fact, did you watch the 30 for 30 on Reggie White on ESPN?
Yeah.
That was tremendous, and I, like you, started in Philadelphia in 1990, so we're on this.
In that movie, oh my God.
Okay.
In that little documentary, too much WIP, and something else, Jody.
Too much WIP.
Big of a deal of his. I think that that whole thing where his religious beliefs and him, not. Well, what did he say? He was especially at the beginning of his career with his faith, he was anti same sex.
Yeah, homosexuality.
I think they spent way too much time on that. They didn't do that to other people. I mean, I can understand putting it out there, but they made it like 3 chapters. I was not real pleased with that.
Reggie was pretty outspoken about it. And Miss busting my chops for WIP. There was only one host out who was on the air when Jerome Brown passed, and that was yours truly.
Is that right?
It's one of the toughest shows I've ever had to do. At the time, I'd been only doing them for a second. Now I've been doing them 30 years. So this is 30 years later, and still to this day, I say that was one of the hardest shows I ever had to do. But no, I want to move away from Jerome Brown. Will a right be wrong this year? Is Eric Allen finally going to get into the Hall of Fame? Yesterday, he became a finalist for the first time. He'd been a semifinalist at least the last 5 years, maybe 6 or 7, but he had never broken through to make the final 15. He's a finalist this year. The 2 guys that I've been making an argument for 20 plus years to make the Hall of Fame have been Joe Klecko, got in last year, and Eric Allen. Deserves to be a Hall of Famer, unquestioned Hall of Famer in my mind. Is he in yours, Bob Grotz?
Yeah, I think he does get in. I keep getting all these surveys from Hall of Fame voters and stuff like that, or organizations, and he's always one of the top 2 or 3 names. Which of these guys is more deserving, or do you feel is more deserving? So, I mean, that to me, that's a little bit of an indicator. I've gotten those for years, but a lot of Eric Allen. I think this is the year for him. And another guy too, Jody, that I'm going to plug this guy. It's a local guy, Billy White Shoes Johnson. He definitely is deserving. I mean, the kick returners, the punt returners, and that they've just been disrespected. And,
they don't get in. Maybe Devin Hester breaks through. He might be the guy.
And even the punters too. I mean, now they've kind of punting is they've almost outlawed special teams to kick off and the punts are more limited. But punters too, and a perfect candidate for Hall of Fame punter, in my opinion, would be Sean Landeta. Kicked for like 30 years, punted for like
Sean.
35 what was it? 35 miles. Yeah, we were looking at this, and did a great job. 2 Super Bowl rings, Jody. You remember with the Giants?
Oh, Landeta's a bud.
Yeah.
I hope he gets that kind of accreditation. I fear it's never happening.
Yeah, but yes on yes on Eric Allen. Yes.
By the way, Bob's first year, 92, 1991. I was just doing this yesterday because I had to write about the JG nonsense. 1991 was the Eagles' last number 1 defense statistically under Bud Carson. 1991. It's been that long. 2022 was the first time since 1991 they were at least number 2 in the NFL. Over 30 years. I don't think people realize that, but they're living it.
They gave up.
And oh, by the way, you're right. Buddy's defense never number 1.
No.
Bud Carson's the year after Buddy got his walking papers.
Yeah.
Actually, the last time they were number 1.
I'll look it up in the break, but the Buddy Ryan, there's a lot of revisionist history there. A lot of revisionist history. And people remember it for whatever reason. Their memories have failed them, to be honest.
All right, so Bob Grotz, you believe that the Eagles will put this game in the bank by the end of the first quarter. You said that earlier on the show.
Yeah.
To what extent, and how did the last 3 quarters play out? Because right, wrong, or indifferent, the Giants did throw the ball into the end zone on the last play of the game and could have gotten a 2-point conversion and tied it and forced overtime. There's certain guys here on the stream that get on my case because I point out that happened last year. The Giants got an onside kick. If they've been able to recover that in the game at home, they could have challenged the Eagles. They only lost by 5 points. So when is it a game? When isn't it a game? Give us the Bob Grotz breakdown on how the fourth quarter plays in this game. Will the Eagles be up by 3 touchdowns and putting the Heisman out for the Cardinals and keeping them at length? Will the Cardinals rally and come back and make it a game? How's the fourth quarter play?
The fourth quarter plays out like this. Every time the Eagles throw the ball, they'll have a double-digit lead. every time they throw the ball, the crowd's going to chant, "Run, run, run." That's going to be it, you know. And if Gainwell or DeAndre Swift gets the ball and runs, they're going to go nuts. So I think that's what Eagles fans want right now, and they're going to be comfortably ahead. They're going to get it. You know, they're going to.
If they're ahead, they're going to have a great run pass ratio. People will love it.
And JG, his deal, I'm not completely 100% in this, but his deal did seem to align with Nick Sirianni's, and that was keep everything in front of you. And so that's going to mean a lot of first downs for the Eagles, and not much time for Kyler Murray to get into rhythm. So, and you may even see a few turnovers too. And that's another area where the Eagles, the defense, especially to me, the back end, they've just been brutal. You know, no turnovers. I mean, or no takeaways. And you know, that's just that's a terrible formula to. I mean, that gets in your head after a while. You go into the playoffs and know that you can't get takeaways. I mean, that's a lot of stress on Jalen Hurts and the offense. So, you know, maybe they can get a few of those too. There should be opportunities.
Just remember, you heard it here first. James Bradbury with a big INT this week.
Ooh, but Bob's guy, James Bradbury.
But he's gotten a bad rap because, I mean,
now you're going down. He's getting a bad rap. You killed him forever. You're coming to his defense now.
I never said he was the worst cornerback in the world. And
pretty close. You were pretty close to it, Bob.
It kind of that pass defense. You know, Sean Desai and now Patricia. I guess Patricia. You know, you look at last week and you say, was there modest improvement? Yeah, for maybe the first half, but that second half, I saw guys wide open again, you know, and there were a couple of good throws. Tyrod Taylor made a great throw to Slayton, but and who was it? Blankenship. Yeah, I mean, boy, he really misplayed that thing.
Hey, misread that.
Yeah,
that was not good.
Also, I never remember.
You know, Bob, the person they miss the most is CJ. That is the guy they miss the most. Man, that guy just made plays. He just made plays.
He had an attitude, and it was contagious. So yeah, they should have paid him.
In case you're wondering why we have Bob Grotz on, now you know, because you never know what he's going to say. He actually defended James Bradbury.
Well, he should.
Bradbury's
getting
knocked me over with a feather that Bob Grotz was going to come to the defense of James Bradbury.
I hope Jeff Kerr isn't listening right now. He'll be good.
Yeah. Well, I have a stat to refute what you say. At Bob Grotz, Delco Times. Make sure you read Bob. Does a tremendous job since 1992.
Right.
That's impressive.
I got to get headed. I'm going to Las Vegas now. I'm going to start driving out there.
By the way, you got a new profile picture. When did you put that up? You look like a model in that picture. That's the best picture you've ever taken. Your profile picture.
I didn't know about that. Yeah. Well, thank you, John.
You're welcome.
BG, thanks. Go back inside.
All right.
You're officially live. I know you've been in the car for a week, so go get something to eat. Go inside and get something to eat.
All right, guys. Always a pleasure.
Bob Grotz for the Delco Times here with us on Birds 365. He defended Bradbury.
Yeah, how about
that? I can't believe that. And I'm the biggest. Well, maybe we're living in bizarro world because I'm the biggest Bradbury fan. I started the push to get him here when he was still on the Giants, while he's still under contract, because I had sources in New York telling me they're going to release Bradbury. Bradbury's the guy. They got to clean up their cap, and it's going to be Bradbury. So I went on the airwaves in Philadelphia and said, this guy's going to shake loose. He's a perfect fit for the Philadelphia Eagles. And damn if it didn't work out.
And by the way, Jody, for the buddy truthers we were talking about, 86 to 90, so we're talking 5 seasons. One top 10 defense. Here they are: 17th, 23rd, 27, number 8, number 12 started to turn around. That Bud got here number 1 in 1991, number 6, and then the fall off. But yeah, the Buddy built the foundation. But guess what? They weren't that good. And people think they were.
Yeah.
Then they took off with Bud Carson.
He is John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. We got to come back and put a bow on this show. Are we going to make picks? We're not on tomorrow.
Yeah, we got to.
Here's
my pick. Eagles win the game. That's my pick.
I was going to say, I'm ready to declare the Eagles a W, but I don't know exactly if I'm ready to, and I asked Grotz to do it. Tell me how the fourth quarter's going to go. I'm not ready to quite ready to give a score, but we'll come back and we'll give you our thoughts on the Eagles and the Cardinals next here on Birds 365.
Any professional sports coach will tell you there's no substitution for preparation. At McMullen Associates, that is a tenet by which we live. We prepare from day one for victory. Anything less is not acceptable.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction, go with trust,
Go Birds!
and go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
Underdog Fantasy has a way for you to play alongside your favorite football team all season long with their fantasy pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats, then do what you usually do on a Sunday, watch the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, and the Sports Betting Show wants you to get involved. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up, use the promo code WIN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
EAGLES, Eagles.
All right, we're all but out of time here on Birds 365. Thank Grotz and Rickie Ricardo, two of my personal faves. They not only bring insight, but they make me laugh when they come on. So I thank both of those two guys. Johnny, we're not on tomorrow. We'll certainly be back Monday after the game. Eagles are gonna win against the Cardinals on Sunday, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, they just Arizona. Come on, they're not trying to win. Number one, they're trying to reboot the thing. And look, I mean, I said there's Kyler and aspect. If the Eagles don't play well, turn it over. It's the NFL. Anything can happen. But I would be very surprised if they didn't win this game. And I'd be very surprised if they didn't win it pretty easily. If they play a clean game, which they haven't done very often, but if they do, they will win it easily. And they need to clean up those turnovers. And as long as they clean up the turnovers, if they can, they'll win the game handily.
And I am guilty of this as well. So if I'm going to cast aspersions, I'm casting them on myself. There have been games this year where I've said the Eagles not only need to win, the Eagles need to make a statement. The Eagles need a blowout. The Eagles need to step on somebody's throat and keep them down. Maybe more so this week than any game this season because of what John McMullen et al., guys who were in the locker room afterwards, said about the post game against the Giants, that it didn't feel like a win, that the team's not, you have to laugh at Sirianni when he says they're having fun, except for guys who are in there every single day and go, it doesn't look like people are having fun. They need to have some fun, John. They need a blowout just to pump the emotional balloon of the Eagles back up again.
I think the 1 o'clock start might pump it up. I think it might be that.
When in doubt, tie it to a 1 o'clock start.
Yes, man.
You are so predictable.
The players, forget about me. The players love it. They love it. They love 1 o'clock games. That might be enough to pump them up.
Yeah, you know what the players don't like? Playing 3 games on Christmas. And you know what Roger Goodell and the 32 owners say to the players? We can play our games whenever we damn please because people are going to tune in to the 27, 29 million number.
Did you see the TV ratings, Jody?
Oh, yeah.
I know we got to go. 29.2 million for Raiders.
And they still haven't released the Eagle number. They
29,
released the early game and the late game.
No, 29. This is from Front Office Sports. 29 million for the Giants Eagles. 27.2 million for Ravens 49ers. So it's weird. The first game drew the most, 29.2. The NBA games, 2.5 million, 4.1, 5, 1.2, 1.3. I mean, the NFL destroys everything in its path. It's amazing.
And do they care about the players being home with their families on Christmas? Now let's schedule another Christmas next week, next year. Could
Wednesday.
Be a quad game. Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're going to play Christmas games on Wednesday next week, next year. Mark our words. But that's a topic. We've got all off season to talk about that on Birds 365. We got to stay in the mode. Eagles, Cardinals on Sunday. Johnny Mack be part of the pregame show and the postgame show. And then he and I will be back here on Birds 365. You're good for Monday, right?
Yeah, it's a long time away, but hopefully.
All right.
Day after a game.
Just so I'm on the record, I don't care what Nick Sirianni does with the coin toss. This game, I'm going to leave it up to the coach. He can do whatever he wants. If he wants to defer, that's fine. If he wants to take ball, that's fine. This is one where you got other fish to fry. Don't worry about the coin toss, coach. So I won't be second-guessing that, but I will ask McMullen to text me and say whether he did or didn't take the ball.
I can text you right now. Defer.
All right, he is John. I'm Jody. We are Mac and Mac Birds 365. We'll be back. Oh, I can't do the 2-2 thing because it's not. We're not back again till Monday. We'll see you on Monday, everybody. Go Birds.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.